little aloha in our day. Spread a little aloha around the world. At breakfast with Bob.
Thank you, Poncho Man. Welcome, everybody. Breakfast with Bob, our Not Quite Kona edition. My name is Bob Bapp. We're brought to you by Master Spas, as fuels go longer, Hoka Let's Fly, Deborah Wetsuits, Premium Plus Sports, and of course, our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, coming off a huge win yesterday at Ironman France, Lucy Charles-Barclay joins us. She won one Ironman World Championship, one 70.3 World Championship, and now she adds to that Ironman France. Lucy, how you doing?
Yeah, really good, Bob. Coming to you from Nice at the moment. So still enjoying the sunshine here, but yeah, feeling good after yesterday's race.
Well, especially, when we chatted not that long ago, we were talking about not doing Nice this year, not doing the World Championships, because it would mean, one, you got to go and train there with the injuries that you've had over the last few years. A lot of chances on a bike to go down. It's a problematic type of course. If you commit to that, you're sort of committing your season, because you've got to go and potentially do what you did yesterday and win there, validate, and then go back. What changed for you?
Yeah, I think, you know what, off the back of, obviously I had a pretty bad injury that I sustained during the marathon in Kona, and we wasn't sure how long that would take to heal. And I actually ended up having to have 16 weeks off of running after Kona to let that mend. So I think in the early part of the year, I wasn't sure how I'd come back to racing after that, whether an Ironman might be a stretch too far. So I decided to go and do the T100 races to start my season, and they definitely went a lot better than expected. And having two second place finishes there, I was like, it kind of opens up my season a little bit. Should I go out to Nice and just try the course, do some riding on it, see how I feel? And was super fortunate to have both Marjolaine and her boyfriend Clement say that they would take me out on the course, show me it, and see what I thought. And after doing a couple of rides with them, I was like, you know what, I quite like this. This is quite a fun course, and you know what, let's do the full Ironman here and at least validate, and then I have the option to come back and race the World Championships. And definitely after yesterday's race, I'm now a lot more excited for the World Champs in September, and really glad that I did come here and do a bit of a training camp and then do the race at the end of it.
When you think about it, when you've won on a number of hilly courses, St. George obviously being one of them, a lot of times the downhills on the run is what the problem is. The nice thing about Nice, it's flat on the run. So in terms of someone who's had stress fractures before, it's a little less daunting than if you were running something very hilly.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was one of the things that I kind of on the bike was like, obviously it's an extremely challenging bike course. And you're kind of questioning, well, how well am I going to run after biking on such a tough course? But actually, I think it's a really nice run course because it's relatively flat. There's crowds the whole way. The only daunting thing is you've got to do 4 laps on the same course. So I feel like if you're having a bad day, that could be really tough. But if you're having a good day, then it's amazing. So yeah, the crowds were amazing, and I'm sure they're going to be even better in September.
Well, and look at your run split. Was that the first time you've gone sub 250, right? You ran 249.
Yeah, I think my best was from Kona actually, where I did a 257. So
Yes.
yeah, a good improvement.
Well, and an improvement on a course that, I guess the nice thing is when you're on a really hilly course like that, you're using you're not like in Kona, you're in that same position the whole time. There's so much different terrain that you have to deal with. Maybe that takes less out of the legs. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a valid point, definitely. I think obviously you're spending less time just drilled in the aero position. You're getting out onto the bars. You're coming out the saddle at times as well. You've got uphill, you've got descending. So yeah, it's just a completely different course, I guess, to Kona. So it throws a different element to it. And yeah, who knows? Maybe because you're mixing up what muscles you're using on the run, you do arrive there a bit more fresh. But yeah, it definitely seemed to be that way yesterday.
Well, and you're split, so 123 at the half, and then 249, and basically you were right there the whole time. You didn't fall off at all. A couple of minutes, but no big deal.
Yeah, I just felt super smooth actually. Like it was nice to know I had, I guess, a good lead on the other girls, so I could just run my own race and yeah, just feel like I was in a great flow. And like I said, the crowds there were just amazing, and even the other competitors cheering me on as well, which is always nice. So That's definitely the unique thing with Ironman racing, just to be able to share the course with the other athletes, the fans, and really get that energy back from them. So yeah, a really great experience.
So more training camps then in Nice leading up to Worlds, if you
Yeah,
decide.
yeah, you know what? I never really thought about it as a place to come and train, but I've definitely been so warmly welcomed by the local people here. I've been swimming with the elite swim squad in Antibes, and they've been preparing for the Olympic trials. So Reese actually laughed because it's the first time he's ever seen me at the back of the lane, just hanging on to the swim squad. But again, a really nice experience. I feel like that only is going to help me, and just to be able to come out biking with the local athletes here, and even just running along the promenade, there were so many people that were just cheering me on my training runs. So yeah, definitely a special place, and I feel like it's a great place now to come and do some training for sure.
So your stomach issues, gut issues that you've had and finally found a solution to. Is that something you've been struggling with for years?
Yeah, it's definitely been an on and off problem. Like I'd say, I feel like I've really got my in race nutrition dialed over the last few years, but
Yeah.
definitely out of that, I always felt like there wasn't something quite right. So this year, I felt like the symptoms were worse than maybe they'd ever been. And other symptoms like joint pain that I would always get when I trained really hard. And I just felt like, you know what, maybe that isn't normal. I feel like I've had it my whole life, but I felt like it's probably time to get to the bottom of this. And yeah, it was pretty evident when it came back that I had celiac disease, that it was my diet that had been causing this. And actually, whenever I'd been eating gluten, I'd just been basically poisoning myself. So, which makes me concerned about when I've obviously done big races and carb loaded going into them, eating gluten, or even after Kona last year, after the race, just eating pizza and carbs and all these things that actually
Right.
my body doesn't want at all. So probably really hindering my recovery a lot of the time as well. So definitely already just making that change feels like it's made a big difference, and I hope that that will long continue.
You know, with a lot of elite athletes a lot of women who've been elite athletes most of their life, we've seen a lot of bone density issues. You know, I remember they did a thing with the Ironman sports medicine conference in Kona, and one year they studied the men on bone density and the women on bone density. The men, 50-year-old men, were like their bones were solid as rocks, but a lot of women who'd been running since they were very young, their bone density was shot. It was really bad. Were you concerned about that in terms of what the diagnosis was going to be in terms of potential a bone density issue?
Yeah, I guess for me, it's almost like a perfect storm, having been a swimmer my whole life. So
Yeah.
bone density isn't generally good in swimmers. And then having a diet where I've actually been damaging my small intestine. So it wasn't able to absorb any of the nutrients that I'd been eating. So could explain the injuries that I've had over the previous years. We have looked into bone density before, and it all looked normal. But I think one of the things is what we're doing as triathletes isn't really normal. I feel like your bone
No.
density probably needs to be better than normal to cope with what we're doing. So again, I just hope that now I've kind of got this under control. Hopefully, as I start to mend more and my body can actually absorb all the goodness that I eat every single day, hopefully that's going to make me more robust as well.
Well, and since you're such a high, you're one of those athletes that everybody knows. There's so many folks that follow you. I'm sure a number of women have reached out with that same concern. They've got gut issues, and you know, I thought I was doing right. I was carbo loading before races. I was enjoying myself afterwards, but then there's something going on.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, I've had quite a few Ironman athletes reach out to me, or other athletes reach out to me that have had similar symptoms and have since looked into the issue and have got the same diagnosis. And I think I was looking into the UK specifically, but there's about 500,000 people they estimate that have the disease that aren't diagnosed. So it is fairly common. And actually, whilst yes, it's a slight lifestyle change to cut out gluten, I think like as top performing athletes, we're used to making sacrifices for our performance, but this one is for health. So it's no question that obviously it makes complete sense to follow that diagnosis. And yeah, hopefully I can just make more people aware of it, because it's quite a simple change once you get more used to it. And I've heard that nowadays there's a lot more gluten-free options than there used to be in the
So
past as
many.
well. it's a lot easier nowadays than the poor people that were diagnosed years ago. But yeah, I feel really fortunate that we've got to the bottom of that issue.
So I was looking back. You got into the sport in 2014, I think, when you first started racing. But your first pro race is in 16. So since then, you've done 37 races, 15 wins, 15 seconds, 3/3, 2/4, 1/5, and a tenth. So top five, 36 of 37. Podium, 33 of 37. I mean, it's pretty unbelievable when you obviously you don't look back when you're looking forward. You got big races coming up. But if somebody had told you when you didn't make the swim team until 2012, you're going to become one of the most decorated triathletes in history over this next decade, you would have been like, what, are you crazy?
I definitely would have laughed. I would have gone, I can barely ride a bike, and running, yeah, it's one of those things where it was always a challenge. So yeah, I think the 10th place finish I had was actually one of my first pro races in 70.3 Dubai. And I feel like when I got in the top 10, I was over the moon and thought, okay, like I'm just kind of cutting it, and I think I can be a pro. And yeah, to then kind of build on that and have the success that I have, I feel like, yeah, I have to pinch myself sometimes. And even like when I watch back, for example, the race on the weekend, sometimes it doesn't feel like I'm watching myself in these videos. I still feel like that kind of real newbie triathlete, even though I've kind of been doing this for nearly 10 years now, but the time's definitely flown by.
It's unbelievable. And a lot of times people will have breakthrough races and they'll get up in the podium. The first time you come to Kona as a pro, you get second. And then sometimes people have a difficulty dealing with success. They've sort of surprised themselves, and I don't deserve this. I don't belong. The background you had as a professional swimmer for so long, did that help you deal with this? Because you'd been there, right? You'd been at the very top, and you got to a point where you knew, okay, I got to move to something else. But the fact that you'd been an elite athlete before, did that help you handle success?
Yeah, I think so. I've always been an extremely driven athlete. I feel like I've always had a confidence. I guess I've always been willing to just throw myself into any scenario and just see what happens. And yeah, even as a young swimmer, be willing to race the best athletes and just see what happens. And I feel like obviously coming second in Kona 4 times to finally get win, it wasn't like this new pressure had been put on me because I'd won. It was more of a relief because it felt like, am I ever going to win this? So yeah, I guess I feel quite lucky in that respect that now I have that world title. I almost feel less pressure because I've got the thing I've been chasing for so long, and now everything else just feels like a bit of a bonus.
Tradition and respect for the sport, that type of stuff is really important. And I know that's important to you. And it's not often where somebody, and I know it's different now because Ironman isn't in Kona every year, but defending as the champion, it's a hard thing to walk away from. You're the defending champion, even though it's in Kona and this year's in Nice. I'm sure that you struggled with, I want to respect the sport. I want to make sure that the champion is if I can be there healthy, I want to go. Did that enter into the decision making at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, I came into this sport as a fan of the sport, and Ironman is what got me into the sport. I was driven by the challenge, and obviously, to then become the world's best at it, it's difficult to turn your back on that and go, you know what, I'm just going to sit here and allow someone else to become world champion. I'm not even going to defend it or try and make it difficult for someone. And I feel like now, whoever wins that race in September, whether it's me or it's someone else, they had to fight for it against the reigning world champion. So yeah, hopefully that does give some respect back to the sport. But I'm still a huge fan of the sport. I love this, and I love being able to race alongside so many incredible athletes. And definitely the female field, since I've got in the sport, has just gone from strength to strength. So it's pretty amazing time to be a female athlete in the sport.
It's a great time to be a professional triathlete with Super League and World Tri and 70.3 and T100. There's so many great opportunities for athletes to make a living and be able to showcase who they are and what they do. You came in second. You're in the 2 T100s you did this year, right? And you would think that T100 isn't that set up for you because you got all these Olympians coming in, right, with all this raw speed. but second place at those two races was awesome. Is the goal now will you do London, or is that too soon after doing a full?
Yeah, I'll definitely do London. I mean, for me, it's a home race, so it's quite a unique opportunity to get to race on home soil, so close to home as well. So I imagine a lot of friends and family will come out and watch, which again is lovely because they don't often get to see me race live. They're normally just watching on a screen or a tracker. So yeah, that will be the next race in the calendar for me.
When I was up there at Alcatraz, I was thinking right now, Lucy is going, oh my God, a race where the swim really makes a big difference here. And I'm not there. That must have been a hard one. We obviously got Nice coming up, but that seemed to me that would be a bucket list race for Lucy Charles-Barclay.
It's definitely on the bucket list for sure. I mean, it's such a unique race to jump off of that boat, and it's a bit scary as well, I have to admit. But yeah, it's definitely one that I will have to do in the future because it's such a unique event, that one.
And so you'll do London and then do a base for World Championships in Nice, and then are you also thinking Taupo in December?
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see how the season goes with that one. I mean, it's already going to be a hugely long season, and it will be mine and Reese's wedding anniversary on the day of 70.3 Taupo, which I'm sure he won't mind me racing. But yeah, we'll definitely see how it goes. I mean, there's going to be a hell of a lot of travel this year, which is great. Again, it's amazing to have these opportunities. But yeah, I'm not going to overcommit myself. But if I'm feeling good, then I'll definitely try and be there.
When you start running, when basically you go from 257 to 249, I mean, that's huge improvement. What led, was it the fact that you could train healthy and pack training days on top of each other?
Yeah, I feel like, to be honest, I got the green light to start my run walking on the 1st of January. So from that day, we've just done a really, really gradual progression. And I think, yeah, just being consistent and not having any kind of interruptions has been crucial. But there's definitely more to come. I feel like we're not really doing a lot of key intensity on the run. We've just been building that mileage really nicely, which I think for running a marathon is perfect. But then for more the 70.3 and the T100 distance, then you start needing that intensity to be able to run quicker for that slightly shorter distance. But yeah, it definitely showed that can work for the marathon distance for sure.
So what you just did in Nice, that qualifies you for Worlds in Nice, right? Is that how that works? And then do you still have to validate for next year's Kona sometime?
Yeah, so Ironman did update the rules this year. So as the reigning champion, I could validate for both the Ironman World Champs in Nice and the 70.3 in Taupo by just doing an Ironman, which was
You
really
did?
great. It freed up my season a little bit just to do it kind of two in one. But yeah, I guess I'll have to see. Obviously, being the reigning champion, you get that 5-year period where you've just got to validate. So yeah, it makes it a little bit easier, but yeah, still nice. It gives you again a bit more freedom of where you want to race throughout your year, and yeah, it's great.
I love it. Lucy, thank you so much for always being so gracious with your time. Congratulations. The thing that impressed me, that 249 just blew me away. I'm going, she hasn't really been doing, you obviously ran well at both the T100 races, but this was a marathon after a brutal bike ride. So congratulations on awesome race, and we'll see you in Nice, if not before.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Always a pleasure.
Lucy Charles-Barclay, who just won Ironman France, is our guest. Again, Breakfast with Bob. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.